Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're zeroing in on a principle that, well, once you grasp it, it can really change how you approach just about everything.
Mhm.
It's the 80-20 rule, often called the Pareto principle.
Right. The basic idea being roughly 80% of the effects, the outcomes, they come from only about 20% of the causes.
Exactly. And this isn't some new business buzzword either. It actually goes way back.
Yeah, to an Italian economist, Vilfredo Pareto, he first spotted it looking at wealth distribution. How a small percentage of people held most of the wealth.
And the really interesting part, he later saw the same pattern in his own garden.
With his peas, I love that detail. Like a tiny fraction of his pea plants produced most of the actual peas.
It's kind of amazing.
It really is. It shows how Pareto sort of stumbled onto this fundamental imbalance that seems to pop up everywhere, economies, nature, you name it.
And while you hear it a lot in business, right, like 20% of clients giving you 80% of your business.
Sure, that's the classic example.
What we want to explore today is how you can actually use this principle to optimize your own life, maybe in some surprising ways.
That's the goal. It's not about some rigid, complicated system or just minimalism in disguise.
No, think of it more like a lens, a way to sharpen your focus on what really matters, what gives you the biggest bang for your buck, whether that's time, energy, or even just happiness.
Exactly. And we should probably clear up a common misconception right away,
Oh yeah, what's that?
that the 80-20 rule is somehow about being careless or, settling for mediocre results.
Right. People think it's an excuse to cut corners, but that's really not it at all.
Not at all. It's
Yeah.
actually about being incredibly strategic, laser focused even.
Strategic how?
Well, it's about asking yourself constantly, where should I put my limited resources? Your time, your energy. Where will they make the biggest difference?
Why waste effort on stuff with minimal impact?
Precisely. When you could channel that same effort into the things that actually push you towards your goals. It's about efficiency and effectiveness.
And that really brings us to the core of this deep dive, which is inspired quite a bit by Damon Zahariades' book, 80-20 Your Life.
It's a great practical guide.
Yeah, we're using it as a sort of central point. And what I like about Zahariades' approach is he's not handing you a blueprint saying, do this, then this.
It's more about sparking your own ideas. He wants you to brainstorm, to experiment, figure out how this principle fits your unique situation, your goals.
It's very personalized in that sense.
And what makes it compelling is that he walks the talk. He doesn't just talk theory.
He shares his own experiences, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like how he applied it to his own health. He talked about cutting out processed sugar and just adding short walks. Two simple things.
And that made a big difference for him.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah.
A significant improvement.
Right.
It just shows how these small, targeted changes, the 20%, can lead to really big positive results, the 80%.
That's really the key idea we want listeners to take away. Think of yourself, as the CEO of your life, Inc.
Uh-huh. I like that. You're in charge.
You are. You're responsible for your happiness, your finances, your health, personal growth, the whole shebang. And the 80-20 rule, it's like this powerful strategic tool you have. It helps you leverage your resources for maximum impact across all those important areas.
Well put. So where should we start applying this?
Yeah.
Time management seems like a good place.
Oh, definitely. It's something everyone struggles with, right? Feeling busy but not productive.
Totally. You feel like you're just spinning your wheels, caught up in all these low-value tasks. They just drain your time and energy.
And you never get to the important stuff, the big projects.
Exactly. They get pushed back and back.
So this is where 80-20 can be, well, a real game changer for you. You start by identifying those high-value activities.
The 20% of tasks that give you 80% of the results you want.
Right. And you prioritize those.
Yeah.
But then you also have to look at the other 80%, the stuff that's taking up time but not delivering much.
And ask those tough questions. Can I delegate this? Automate it.
Or, and this is the liberating part, can I just stop doing it? Will anything bad really happen?
It's about reclaiming control, isn't it? So you can focus your time where it truly moves the needle.
And Zahariades has some practical advice here too, like with to-do lists.
Oh yeah, the endless to-do list problem. He suggests keeping it short, right? Like maybe 7 items max per day?
Yeah, maybe even fewer. The point isn't to list every tiny thing.
No, it's to focus on the essentials. The things that will actually make a difference today. You can keep a master list somewhere else for everything else.
But the daily list is about chipping away at the vital few, letting the less critical stuff, fall away.
Makes sense. What about decision making? That's another area where we can get bogged down.
Definitely. We face so many choices, big and small, it can feel overwhelming.
And the 80-20 rule can act like a mental filter here.
How so?
It helps you quickly see which demands or choices are, well, pretty inconsequential relative to your main goals.
So you realize, okay, maybe 80% of these little decisions don't really matter that much in the long run.
Exactly. And recognizing that frees you up. You stop overthinking every little thing. It speeds up the whole process because the unimportant options just kind of fade out.
Making the path forward clearer, which ties into focus, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Focus is maybe more challenging today than ever before.
All the notifications, the distractions, our attention feels so fragmented.
It really does. All these demands work, home, social media, even just our own thoughts buzzing around, they just dilute our ability to concentrate.
Like that leaky hose analogy you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, the effort gets scattered instead of directed where it's needed most.
But 80/20 helps you, like, laser in. You identify the few areas where your focus yields the biggest results.
The 20% of focus areas that generate 80% of your desired outcomes.
And you consciously direct your attention there. What's the payoff?
Greater effectiveness, obviously, more productivity, but also I think more happiness. That sense of satisfaction you get from making real progress on meaningful things.
That makes sense. And it feels related to the next point, information overload.
Oh, definitely. We're swimming in information.
Yeah.
But does it always help?
It's almost the opposite sometimes, right? You can research for hours.
And Zahariades points out that maybe 80% of what you gather is useless. Or worse, it actually confuses things.
It dilutes your focus, complicates the decision, makes you feel less sure than when you started.
Exactly. Analysis paralysis.
So the 80/20 rule here is about being more selective.
Yeah, discerning about what information you actually need to make a decision or learn a skill.
Knowing when enough is enough.
Right. Resisting that urge to just keep digging deeper and deeper when you already have the core information you need to act. Avoiding that information glut.
Okay, now what about perfectionism? I know a lot of people struggle with that feeling that everything has to be just right.
Ah, yes. Well, the 80/20 rule is pretty much the opposite of perfectionism.
How so?
It actively encourages you to let go of the small stuff, the low-value activities that perfectionists often obsess over.
The things that take up 80% of the effort but only contribute 20% to the final result.
Precisely. Instead, it champions focusing on that critical 20% of effort that delivers the lion's share, the 80% of the result.
It's like permission to say good enough for the less critical parts.
Exactly. And that frees up so much mental energy and time for what really does require your best effort.
Okay, let's shift gears. How can we apply this whole 80/20 mindset to our careers? Job searching, promotions, that kind of thing.
Great question. Let's start with the job search. Many people take a scattergun approach, right?
Yeah.
Apply everywhere.
Yeah, throw enough mud at the wall and hope some sticks.
But Zahariades suggests using 80/20 for a more targeted strategy. Focus your energy on the 20% of jobs that really fit your qualifications.
And then really tailor your application for those specific roles.
Exactly. Quality over quantity. Make those applications count.
What about networking? That can feel like a huge time sink, too.
It can. Again, don't try to connect with everyone. Focus on the 20% of people who are genuinely in a position to help you or who you have a real connection with. Nurture those key relationships.
And he has that interesting inversion for conversations, too.
Oh, right. Listen, 80% of the time, talk 20%. It makes a much better impression than just talking about yourself constantly. People notice when you genuinely listen.
Good tip. And planning the job search itself.
Yeah, invest that 20% of time up front. Define what you want, set weekly goals, identify the best couple of resources or platforms to use. That initial planning saves so much wasted effort later.
Okay, now what if you're already in a job? How does 80/20 help day to day?
Well, back to the to-do list. Those endless lists just don't work well.
They feel overwhelming and you don't know where to start.
Right. So apply 80/20. Limit your daily list to maybe 5 to 7 essential items. Focus on the tasks that will generate the most significant progress for your role or your career. The vital few.
And choosing projects, it's tempting to say yes to everything.
Very tempting. You want to impress, be seen as helpful, but it often backfires.
Spreads you too thin.
Exactly. Diluted effort, missed deadlines. It can hurt your reputation. Zahariades advises being selective.
Using 80/20 to pick projects that align with your strengths.
Right. Projects with fewer roadblocks, projects that genuinely interest you. And if you're assigned something you're worried about, have that conversation with your manager. Talk about where your contribution will be most effective.
Makes sense. Now, for people managing others, this must be huge, too.
Or absolutely. You quickly realize that usually about 20% of your team members are responsible for generating maybe 80% of the team's output.
Your star performers.
Exactly. You need to identify them, understand what motivates them, give them opportunities, really leverage their strengths.
And conversely.
Conversely, you might find 20% of employees cause 80% of the problems or issues.
So what do you do there?
Document everything carefully. Give clear, constructive feedback. And if things don't improve, you have to take appropriate action.
What about those employees who just seem to need a lot of hand-holding, taking up a lot of your time?
It's a balance. You need to support your team, but you can't let one or two people consume 80% of your management time.
So set boundaries.
Yes. Clear boundaries, maybe dedicated check-in times. Focus on building their confidence and independence through positive reinforcement rather than just constant problem-solving for them.
Okay, let's bring this home, literally. How does 80-20 work in our personal lives, around the house?
Even mundane things like house cleaning, it can eat up so much time.
Tell me about it.
But Zahariades argues you can get 80% of that clean and tidy feeling with just 20% of the usual effort.
Really? How? Sounds too good to be true.
It's about mindset shift, letting go of absolute perfection.
Okay.
So limit cleaning time for specific areas. Prioritize the high-traffic spots kitchen, main bathroom over the guest room that rarely gets used.
Focus where it matters most visually.
Exactly. And embrace good enough. Plus, spot cleaning helps a lot. Deal with small messes right away instead of letting them pile up for a giant cleaning session.
That makes sense. And what about all the stuff we own?
Clutter. The 80-20 rule suggests you probably only really use and value about 20% of your possessions.
Oof. That probably hits close to home for many people.
It's a powerful motivator for decluttering, though. Identify that core 20% you love and use, and it becomes easier to let go of the rest. Less stuff means less cleaning, less organizing.
More space, mentally and physically. Even cooking. How does 80-20 apply there?
Keep it simple. Focus on natural, nutritious foods most of the time. And maybe develop a small list, like 5 to 10 go-to meals you enjoy and are easy to make.
Takes the decision fatigue out of what's for dinner.
Exactly. Saves time and mental energy. Same idea applies to hobbies.
Don't try to do everything.
Right. Instead of dabbling in 10 different things, focus on the few hobbies you really love and that maybe even align with other goals you have. Maximize the enjoyment and benefit from your leisure time.
Speaking of leisure, what about reading or screen time?
Yeah, 80-20 applies there too. Give yourself permission to stop reading a book if you're not enjoying it.
Life's too short for bad books.
Totally. And for nonfiction, be strategic. Focus on the sections most relevant to you. Highlight key points. Don't feel obligated to read cover to cover if only a chapter or two applies.
And obviously limit that mindless online scrolling that doesn't add much value.
That's a big time sink for many. Okay, let's move into relationships. Super important area.
Absolutely. How can 80-20 help nurture our connections with people?
With loved ones, partners, family, it's about prioritizing quality interactions over just quantity or trivial stuff.
Being present.
Yes, fully present, attentive when you communicate. Planning enjoyable things together, putting the phone away during quality time, that's the 20% effort that builds 80% of the connection.
And he also suggests ignoring most minor annoyances.
Yeah. Letting go of 80% of the little things that might bug you about the people you love, focusing on the bigger picture of the relationship.
What about friendships? We can have so many acquaintances.
The rule encourages you to identify the 20% of friends you spend most of your time with and who bring you the most joy and support. Your A-list friends, so to speak.
And invest more energy there.
Exactly. It might mean consciously deciding you can't maintain every friendship at the same level, so you can focus more deeply on the most rewarding ones.
And meeting new people. Can 80-20 help there?
Yeah, don't feel pressure to become best friends with everyone you meet. Focus your energy on people whose personalities seem compatible with yours.
He mentions things like Myers-Briggs.
As one possible tool, yeah. Just a way to think about compatibility. Or create mental filters based on traits you don't mesh well with. It helps screen connections more efficiently.
Okay, dating. That's a tricky one.
Can be. But 80-20 suggests prioritizing quality dates over just racking up numbers.
Be clear on your deal breaker.
Yes, know your non-negotiables. And use the 80-20 rule for expectations. Recognize that maybe only 20% of dates will feel really promising, and that's okay. It helps manage disappointment.
All right, let's tackle diet and exercise. How does 80-20 apply here?
For diet, Zahariades suggests a kind of 80-20 balance. Aim for clean, healthy eating about 80% of the time.
Leaving 20% for indulgences.
Exactly. It makes it more sustainable. Small tweaks help too, like getting takeout boxes immediately at restaurants to manage portions, or eating a healthy snack before a party so you're less tempted by all the unhealthy options. Maybe just allow 20% of your party calories for the treats.
And for fitness, do we need hours in the gym?
Not necessarily. 80-20 highlights efficiency. Think compound exercises, squats, deadlifts, push-ups. They work multiple muscles at once. Big results, less time.
Focus on one main goal at a time, too.
Yeah, and make it SMART specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time-bound. And he points out you can get significant benefits from just 15-20 minutes of consistent daily exercise.
Wow, that's encouraging. Any other time-saving fitness tips?
Consider exercising at home saves commute time. No waiting for equipment. Focus only on exercises that directly support your goal. Avoid exercise creep, where you just keep adding stuff.
And maybe try HIIT, high-intensity interval training.
Right. It can give great results in shorter workouts compared to long, slow cardio sessions. Worth experimenting with.
Okay, finances. Another area that can feel overwhelming. How does 80-20 simplify money management?
With budgeting, it's about tracking your expenses, both fixed and variable, but then really focusing on where the bulk of your discretionary money is going. That's likely the 20% of categories where you can make the biggest impact if you need to cut back.
Find the biggest leaks in the bucket, basically.
Exactly. And for investing, it can seem so complex.
So much data.
Right. 80-20 suggests focusing on just a few key metrics when looking at stocks. Maybe the PE ratio, return on equity, the PEG ratio. Don't get lost in the weeds.
What about simpler investing?
He suggests low-cost index funds, like those from Vanguard. You're basically buying the whole market. Focus on low expense ratios and long-term growth. Easy peasy.
And real estate without being a landlord?
REITs, real estate investment trusts. Lets you invest in property without the hassle of direct management. Again, simplifying.
What about credit cards? Many people have a wallet full.
Streamline. Maybe keep only one or two. Pick the one with rewards you actually use. Travel points, cashback, whatever matters to you.
And use that card for most purchases.
Yeah, maximize those rewards. And consider consolidating debt onto a single balance transfer card if you have high interest balances spread across multiple cards. Simplify the payments.
Okay, let's talk about learning, education, training. How can 80-20 make us better learners?
First, the environment. Choosing a distraction-free space is huge. That's maybe 20% of the setup yielding 80% of the focus benefit.
Makes sense. Minimize interruptions.
And use time blocking. Study intensely for a set period, then take a real break. Your brain needs that downtime to consolidate information.
Don't just cram for hours straight.
Right. And be selective about what you study. Focus on the material that will have the biggest impact on your goals. The core 20% of knowledge that provides 80% of the value for what you need to achieve.
Avoid getting bogged down in minor details.
Exactly. And when doing tasks or assignments, except good enough sometimes, perfectionism is the enemy of completion. Consistent progress is often better than striving for impossible perfection.
Attitude matters too, right?
Definitely. A growth mindset seeing everything as a learning opportunity, even mistakes, and embracing constructive criticism instead of getting defensive. That accelerates learning hugely.
Okay, last big area, small business. How does 80-20 apply for entrepreneurs?
It's critical here. Sales and marketing first. Identify your best customers, that 20% who likely generate 80% of your sales. Prioritize them.
Focus your efforts where the money is.
Right, and figure out which marketing tactics actually work, though 20%, bringing in 80% of leads, and double down on those. Same for products, identify and promote your most profitable ones.
What about building a team?
Same principle. Identify your most productive employees, the 20% driving 80% of the output. Empower them. Address underperformance directly with coaching or feedback.
And keep the team lean.
Yes, outsource low-value tasks that don't need to be done in-house. Keep your core team focused on high-impact work.
And for overall business growth, lots of opportunities pop up.
But most are distractions. That's the 80-20 reality. Evaluate every opportunity against your core business and your ideal customer. Does it really fit?
Stay focused.
Stay focused. Nurture your top employees. Actively seek new customers who fit the profile of your best existing customers. That's sustainable growth.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. From peas in a garden to managing a business.
So wrapping this up, what's the main takeaway again?
It's really about a mindset shift. The 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle, it's not just a curious fact. It's a tool for leverage.
Recognizing you can often get more done, achieve more with less wasted effort.
Exactly. by focusing strategically on the things that provide the biggest return in, well, pretty much every part of your life.
So the encouragement for listeners is look for it.
Yeah. In the next few weeks, just observe, where does this 80-20 pattern show up in your life? You might be surprised.
And then think about how you could consciously apply it.
Right. To be more efficient, make faster decisions, maybe feel more confident, and ultimately happier.
Okay, so that brings us to our final thought for listeners to ponder.
Right. Think about this. What is the one single area of your life right now where applying the 80-20 rule could give you the biggest, most immediate positive impact?
What's that one area? And more importantly, what's the critical 20% within that area that you should start focusing on now to get those outsized 80% results?